Hi everyone, welcome back to a tactics video. This time how to use the command squads. We've got 4 options to choose from and they all bring slightly different things. But broadly speaking, they do relatively the same thing and they can be a pretty key part of any Astra Militarum list. So like all my previous videos, I really try to focus on the fundamentals of the unit, how to actually use it. In this video here, I will go through the individual data sheets. We've got 4 as I said. And if you like this style of content, check out the playlist that pops up here for other styles of this video, which is how to use, say, battle line, liminalized battle tanks or indirect units, etc, etc. So as always, I start off with what this unit won't do or its negatives. So across the 4 options we have, which we'll go through in a moment, none of them have the regiment keyword. So this means if you take the unit by itself, it misses out on several key things, which we'll speak about here. So obviously with that being said, you can't receive orders independently. If you don't have the regiment keyword, they can't give themselves orders or receive orders from anybody else if they're independent. Broadly speaking, there's a couple of key exceptions. They're very squishy. You essentially just 5-up save, toughness 3, 1 or 3 wounds each on some very little squishy dudes. And if you do attach them to battle line or an additional character, it suddenly becomes quite a big point investment. So the 4 options we have are 65 points for the Cadian, Catachan and Krieg command squads and 85 points for Militarum Tempestus. So with the 65 point example, if you attach it to say Ursula Creed, I think she's 65 points, it's 130 points. Attach it to a battle line unit, that's suddenly 195 points. And the reason for that, if you don't know, is if you want to have 2 characters attached together, you've got to have basically a battle line unit, which can attach multiple things to it. That's the way the current rules work. So it can become quite a big point investment. You've suddenly got 190-ish points sat at the back of the board, potentially just giving orders. And some of the options will have minimal damage output. So broadly speaking, except for Scions, broadly speaking, their damage output holistically is pretty weak. Some of them you can tool up to be a bit more aggressive. Some have got power fists, some have got multiple shooters, but we're not talking like the Liminalized Battle Tank or Catachan output, for example. So that's the negatives overall. So what's the positives? Is they can obviously issue orders. They're a command squad. They can obviously give orders to all the troops. They've got a Voxcaster, which you can take, which means your order range is suddenly 24 inches, which is fantastic. Now, that being said, in the competitive tournament scene, you do see a lot of top players don't take command squads at all, and they basically get by with just 6-inch order ranges on officers. Now, that's not me. I'm not a top tournament player, and I think for the rest of us mere mortals like myself, a 24-inch order range means you can have a lot more flexibility in your play. Now, the regimental standard also is an option they can all take, and an extra OC on any unit is fantastic. And a key one in the current rules, and if I got this wrong, please tell me, is even if this unit is battle shocked, given they've got +1 OC on the banner, they still are OC1. So that means, crucially, if you fail a battle shock on an objective and they're holding the objective, you actually still hold the objective because you're +1 OC. Now, if I got that wrong, please tell me. Now, whilst I don't have the regiment keyword, they do have the platoon and grenade keyword. So grenade is obvious, it means you can throw grenades, super duper. And platoon does key off a couple of detachments, their stratagems. But likewise, as I said, not having regiment means you can't receive orders and you don't actually benefit from a couple of key detachments, such as the recon detachment, also combined arms, require you to be regiment to benefit from that. But as I said, having platoon means in it, for example, the siege detachment and also the recon detachment, there are some stratagems which key off platoon, which means at least this unit can take part in that aspect. Now, as I said before, there are a bunch of toughness 3, 5+ save, 4+ save on Scion dudes. But if you give them a med pack, you can heal back D3 models per turn in your command phase, which suddenly means you could become quite survivable. And obviously Scions, as I just said, have got a 4+ save, which means they're a bit more survivable. And the other one, which I'm not going to talk about, but definitely is one to be looked at, is you can make him very, very tanky if you just take them by themselves and attach an Ogren bodyguard. So I recommend checking out a video by Joshi40k. He basically speaks about the Ogren bodyguard command squad trick, which suddenly makes this unit very, very survivable if you want them independently. Now, as I said before, some of the options aren't very stabby or shooty, but you can make them very shooty. Obviously, Scions are very shooty. Even some of the other options we'll look at in a second can be made quite shooty. and you can also make some of them a little bit stabby. We're talking like literally just 2 power fist dudes, which is going to be 6 attacks at strength 6, AP 2, 2 damage. So nothing to scoff at. We'll definitely pick up some Space Marines, but again, we're not talking like loads of output. And at 65 points for the Cadian, Catachan, and Krieg, they're cheap enough to always include. Definitely, as I'm saying, as I said here, for us mere mortals in the mid-tables or casual players, 65 points to have 24-inch orders is really good, but again, if you're a very strong tournament player, 65 points you may wish not to use and basically put in something else. So that's the good and bad points. Broadly speaking, I think they're a great unit. They're a very good unit to be basically using to get orders out and also act independently sometimes as well. So let's look at the 4 options we've got. So you can see across here from Warhammer, we've got Cadian, Catachan, Krieg, and the Militarum Tempestus. 65 points for these 3 and 85 points for the Militarum Tempestus. Now, if we just look at the key statistics or the key rules here, being the movement, toughness, save, etc., etc., they are the same across the Cadian and Catachan. You can see they're identical. So, 6-inch move, toughness 3, 5+ save, 3 wounds on the boss, 1 wound on the other chaps, 7+ leadership and OC of 1. And take note, the Cadians are 28 mil bases. I mean, it's only 3 mils, but every bit counts. And actually, Wahapidia here have got the wrong measurement. Actually, 25 mil bases on the Catachan command squad. So they're identical when it comes to the key stuff. And of course, as you can see here, it's 1 Cadian commander and 4 veterans, and same for the Catachan command squad. Now, one interesting thing on the Krieg squad is actually their leadership is higher because they're led by a Lord Commissar. So still 6-inch move, toughness 3, 5+ save, 3 wounds, 6 up leadership, which is good, and OC1 as well for the core stuff. Now, as we look at the Militarum Tempestus, you can see that they're pretty much the same. They've got a 4+ save because they're wearing carapace, I think, armor, and 25 mil bases. So as I said, they're broadly very squishy. Granted, you've got a 4+ save here. You've got extra bit of leadership here, but again, you've got 5 dudes, and actually on the Krieg command squad, actually 6 dudes. There's a Lord Commissar plus 5 veteran guardsmen. So actually, the Krieg command squad is slightly more survivable because you've got 1 more dude with a wound. But that all being said, there's still toughness 3, 5+ save, a total of 7 or 8 wounds. You're not talking loads of wounds, no invul saves, no feel, no pains, nothing like that. So if they get hit by something serious, they're going to disappear in a puff of smoke. Now, as we look at the key abilities, the Cadian command squad, basically, if you've got the officer in the unit and they suffer a ranged attack, if they need an objective marker, they get the benefits of cover. So that's really good. So if you are sat in the open and you're on an objective, you've got a 4+ save, not a 5+ save. The Catachans have got Scout 6, so matching their battle line mates, they can Scout move 6, which is really good. And then when they've got an officer, they've got assault weapons, so fantastic. So you can basically run around and have them advancing and shooting, which is definitely good. Now the Krieg command squad, their jiggery pokery here is if they've got an officer, they can have a stratagem used on them if they're battle shocked, and also orders issued to them if they're battle shocked. Now this definitely of the bunch probably doesn't come up the most and that I've sort of seen, and given they don't actually have the regiment keyword, as you look down here, I'm making sure I haven't got that wrong, it pretty much means that this actually doesn't really work by itself. So if you've just run this unit by itself and it's battle shocked, given it can't receive orders, half its rule is basically dead. Yeah, so this would obviously be very different if you attach them to a bunch of dudes and then you lose loads of casualties. Then they could receive orders and they can also obviously have stratagems applied to them. Now the other cool thing with the Krieg command squad is that the servo scribes, so once per battle, when issuing an order, the Lord Commissar can issue 1 additional order, so that's great. And across the board, I haven't looked at it, but they can all issue 1 order, yeah, so they can all issue a single order, which is said somewhere around here, but I know it's just 1 order. So that all being said, it's then looking at the loadout of the individual units. So the Cadian command squad, the key summary is that you're pretty much locked in taking a banner, a med pack, and I think also 1 other as well, and the med pack. Now you can swap and change, but I'm not going to go exactly through it, but I'm very confident the Cadian Command Squad has the least amount of options because you're locked with, I think it's a med pack, a banner, and the Vox Cast, and one of those you can swap to be a special weapon. But the cool thing is that one of the veteran guardsmen can take a power fist and a plasma pistol. So if you take both the commander and a veteran with a power fist and a plasma pistol, suddenly got a fair bit of low-level DACA. And in combat, you will pick up stuff because power fist, as I said, are 6 AP2 to damage. So the Catachan Command Squad, on the other hand, can take all the DACA at once. It can only have one commander with a power fist and a plasma pistol. Then all of the blokes can take, flamer, grenade launcher, heavy flamer. So this is the only mad portable heavy flamer we have in the Codex. He's actually in the Catachan Jungle Fighter Squad. And this obviously is a very old kit, so it's super cool to see that still there. Heavy flamer is really good, obviously. And if you can advance and still shoot that, that's actually not bad. Now the Krieg Command Squad, broadly speaking, can take a little bit more DACA. I don't think it can take as much as the Cadians, but it can take a little bit more. And then the Militarum Tempestus obviously is a very different kettle of fish. You can take all the DACA, you can take grenade launchers, flamers, hot drop volley guns, melters, and plasma. Now I forgot to go through the Militarum Tempestus one, but they've also obviously got Deep Strike, which is a very powerful rule. And then if you can have the Tempesta Prime, you get sustained hits 1. So 85 points for the Militarum Tempestus, 65 points for the Krieg, Catachan, and Cadian Command Squads. Broadly speaking, in the current meta, the Militarum Tempestus is feeling a bit expensive at 85 points. They've been nerfed a fair bit because of the Bridgehead Strike detachment, which was very powerful in the first quarter of 2025, but it's been pulled right back. So 85 points feels expensive for them now. There's still a lot of utility. They still will clean up most things when you activate them. But 85 points feels like quite expensive. And then I'd say across the other three, we'll talk about it in a bit of detail now, but I would probably say, kind of play whatever. And there will be some, I'll discuss, there will be some ones that you prefer in certain instances, but, I think really across the three, they're all the same point costs. They all roughly do the same thing. They issue an order. Some are more stabby, some are got more shooty, some are more survivable. But broadly speaking, you can probably play any three and be happy with it. Now, of course, this will interact with what you can attach them to, because the Krieg Command Squad can be attached to Def Corps of Krieg, and interestingly, they can be attached to Combat Engineers. And this is interesting because I think they're the only one that can attach to non-battle line units. It's the only actual example I can think of, which actually the only one aside from obviously Scions, but they can be attached to Krieg Engineers. But I don't actually know what you do with that, to be honest. I'm not sure. Because you don't really get any benefit behind besides maybe stratagems. Don't know. That could be a thing. And the other one, just quickly before I jump around too much, is that the other thing the Krieg Command Squad has, which is individually interesting, is they don't have a med pack. Yeah, however, you get a med pack in the battle line unit, but they do get a cute little 6-up feel no pain against mortal wounds, which is the alchemic counter agents. The guy for the syringe looks super cool, but 6-up feel no pain against mortal wounds is just academic, because a 6-up is a 1 in 6 chance. Obviously, if it was a 5-up feel no pain, okay, cool, but 6-up feel no pain is not worth even talking about. So across the three of these, broadly you can sort of take whatever you want, but let's now look at how to effectively use them and any combinations that we've got there. So now effectively using them, you want to deploy them to maximize your order range. So as I said, 24-inch order range is really fantastic, and it is from the officer. Yeah, so make sure when you deploy them, don't bum drum yourself and put them at the back of the board in the corner, and they can only reach most of your deployment zone. Put them in a place where they're obviously safe, but the officer is in a position to give out that 24-inch order range. And the key thing is, given it happens at the beginning of your command phase, you want to make sure that you're setting up for the next turn. So if you push out all your infantry squads or your Kazkin, your Rough Riders, you want to make sure that if they need to get an order next turn, you're not completely out of range. And if you do, want to charge them into something and you want to give them an order next turn, make sure your little commander is close enough within 24 inches to do that. Now, that being said, there are some opportunities for double orders. What I mean by double orders is it's not essentially giving more orders than you can, but looking for ways to double up on the orders you give to units. So the classic will always be, if you arrive from reserves either you come in from strategic reserves or you deep strike via Scions, or you disembark from a transport. In the current rules, as you all know, you can issue an order. So the classic could be, maybe you give a unit from someone else, move, so they move their 9 inches, and then something comes from reserves or disembarks from a transport, you then give them take aim or duty and honour. So given you've basically moved them extra 3 inches, they can then get an additional order, which is very powerful. And the crucial thing that can't be forgotten from all of this is that it's obvious that Guard is an army that needs orders. If you're not giving orders, you are leaving value on the table, and orders can make what appear to be very basic, boring data sheets suddenly become quite spicy and do a fair bit of stuff for you on the tabletop. So do always look for these opportunities. The obvious will be always the deep striking Scions. They'll usually be giving an order to themselves to get lots of shots out, but maybe you do drop them down and they give an order to someone else for whatever reason. Likewise, disembark from a transport. There certainly could be some place, and this is getting a bit technical, not technical, but quite fancy, is that maybe you've got a command squad in a transport, and maybe they, in combined arms, they've got an additional order via an enhancement, so they've got 2 orders. They can give an order out of the transport. They can give an order from the transport, disembark from the transport, and then give another order. Maybe it's a bit jiggery-pokery, but there are still ways to sort of deduce that. In combined arms and detachment, there are 2 stratagems which are very, very good. My favourite will always be, I think it's Inspired Command, where in your opponent's command phase you can give an order. That's very powerful. You can give something a +1 save, you can give something +1 OC, and it's small interactions, but they can help. And the other very powerful ones, I can't remember the name, but I think it's coordinated action, where you can give a regiment unit an order, and it splashes an order 6 inches onto a squadron unit. So that's another good one. And the other one, I don't remember the actual name, but it's 2 CP, where you can make all officers give orders to everybody, regiment or squadron. So there are some really good stuff you can do with, particularly in combined arms, to maximise your orders. And then the other one, of course, is a Scion can also take command rod. So the Scion can essentially have the unit receiving 2 orders. However, given he can only give 1 order, the actual use of this in the current sort of rule set is a bit weird. So, as I said, make sure, and this is obvious, if you're going to be taking these guys with a Voxcaster, you want to make sure that you're always in range to units that need to get orders. Don't go and bum drum yourself another unit which is 25 inches away, and you could be either an inch back or the officer's a bit closer, and you could give an order again. Now, this comment will depend on the configuration you'll take, and we'll have a look in a second at the configurations to consider. Is that if you are, if you're going all in on taking a big blob of them, we'll talk about that in a second, it could be a lot of points, as we spoke about at the beginning. So make sure in about turn 3, depending on how the game's obviously shaping out, is that you're pushing them up to be able to contribute in turns 4 and 5. So I typically at the moment take Cadian Command Squad, Ursula Creed, and Cadian Shock Troops, and that's obviously a 195 point package, as I said before. And if that is just sitting at the back of the board for the entire game, yes, it's giving orders. That's good. It's giving out a load of orders because Ursula's got 3, the Cadian Commander's got 1. That's 4 orders, so that's very powerful. But if they're just sitting at the back of the board giving orders, and then you come to the end of the game and you lose on primary on turn 5, could this unit have run up and actually done something? Because you've got a lot of bodies in there. You've got a banner, you've got a medic, so they will in the late game definitely hang around and do stuff. Now, with the medic, you want it, when you're taking casualties, be very, very selective on what you kill off. So, there will be instances where you just get blown off the board, or you get chopped to pieces by, a Primarch, and in that case, it doesn't matter what you do, your medic's going to die anyway. But if they're taking lots of plink damage, and you've got the chance to leave the medic alive, do make sure the medic is the last one standing. Now, the crucial thing to remember is that the officer, he can't be healed back, he or she. So, you're basically going to have to make the choice of, if I kill off the medic, do I revive back maybe the Bannerman, for example, plus another friend, and suddenly you've got OC6 on the objective? Or do you kill off the medic and have the commander left so he can yell at people and still give orders? So do be quite careful when you get down to those final models that are alive, and this is when you should actually be slow rolling your saves to make sure you're clear on who's dying when. So, okay, now optimal configurations. So this is where there's a fair bit of there's an opportunity to try something different. Now, I see there's 4 options. So the first one is running them solo, now just by themselves. So I would say in that instance, 1 order is pretty weak. Now we're talking competitive, like I play tournaments, so you're playing casual, take this with a grain of salt. You play narrative, take it with a grain of salt. Like, it is super cool. 5 dudes, 6 dudes sat there with a banner in the middle of the board yelling orders, but 1 order is not really, you want to be having more orders than just 1. Of course, again, as I said, in the top tournament tables, you do see, ladies and gents playing, don't use these at all. They just don't use them because they don't need to. But again, for us mid-table players, 24 inches is very good. But I would say here, if they're just 1 order by themselves, what's the actual point? Now, if they're attached just to a battle line unit, again, what's the point? What are you actually getting out of this? So if we have a look at the Cadian commands, well, let's talk about it. If you attach some Cadian shock to them, you've got 1 order. You've then got the benefit of cover. If you're near an objective, cool. Okay, great. You obviously got a med pack, and the med pack will heal back destroyed platoon models, as it says here. So you can heal back dead Cadian. So that's something. The Catachan command squad, you could have a super blob of dudes, scout moving. You have a super blob of dudes with assault weapons, but given you're going to have, you might have a bit of Daka here, heavy flamer, a plasma, a melter, 2 flamers in the jungle fighter squad. We're not talking loads of damage. And assault, having the assault ability on which is mostly just lads guns, is not really going to, make things too exciting. Again, the Krieg command squad, I mean, yeah, okay, if you had a Krieg battle line unit attached to them, and they can receive orders if they're battle shocked, they can have stratagems used if they're battle shocked, fantastic, but if you're failing leadership 6 because of Lord Commissar, you're very unlucky. And then the other thing is that given they're attaching to the Krieg Def Corps, given they've got a med pack, you usually will be healing yourself beyond below half, if that makes sense. Now, Militarum Tempestus is a very different equation, obviously. If you're taking a Militarum Tempestus command squad, attaching it to some Tempestus Scions being 5-man or 10-man, makes them very spiky, because you've got sustained hits, which is amazing. You can come down, give yourself an order. You're going to give yourself rapid-fire plasma guns. The Tempestus Scions have got the ability with a reroll once to wound or full rerolls to wound onto an objective, the opponent. So obviously attaching these guys to their battle line equivalent is very effective, but it gets very expensive very quickly, because currently it's 85 points. I think 10 Scions now is 140, so it's a 225 point package, and it's definitely in a competitive scene that the Scions have just disappeared, because it's a very expensive investment. And definitely from the tournaments I've played, I find they come down, delete something, they just remove them from the tabletop, and then they just get blown off the board, because they struggle to really kill more than 2 things, because they're a one-hit wonder, if that makes sense. So I would say if you're just taking these, with a single 10-man squad, maybe a 20-man squad, I'm not too sure what the use is here. And again, if you've got a use for just attaching them to battle line, tell me, because I'd love to hear from you. Now, at the end, as I said, you can attach them to Ursula Creed with a battle line unit. You can attach them to a Castellan with a battle line unit. You can attach them to Lord Solar with a battle line unit. Now, this, as I said, becomes a big point investment. Again, Ursula Creed, we're talking a 195 point premium, roughly speaking. Castellan's the same. Lord Solar gets hyper expensive because he's 150 now, so we're talking a 280 point investment. And of course, Lord Solar, as I said, and Ursula Creed can give out loads of orders. They give 3 orders each, I think. Lord Solar gives you extra CP, fantastic. Ursula Creed gives you a free stratagem or -1 CP cost. But suddenly, as I said, we're talking a lot of points in one package. And this is where the top tournament players will actually often just run Ursula Creed by herself or Lord Solar by himself and have them running all over the tabletop yelling at units to basically go and do stuff. But again, for us mere mortals, I think, personally, as I said, I use Creed, Cadian Command Squad, and the Cadians to basically ensure I get that 24-inch order with Ursula yelling out 3 orders, which is very powerful. So that's the thing, is that if you take this configuration here, it's a big point investment. And as I spoke about in the previous slide, is that you want to be making sure they're not just sitting on the back of the board all game. You know, if you're taking Cadians as well, the Cadian shock troops, their objective's sticky. So you get sticky backfield, push up Ursula, and she and all her friends go and do stuff in the late game. But obviously, you know, Lord Solar is very good, but again, this is a big point investment. So as I said, okay, so run them solo. If you just run them solo, I'm not sure the use there. Attach them to just a battle line. Okay, maybe. Scions, obviously, it's very different. Attach them to Ursula, a Castellan, or Lord Solar. It's a big point investment. But then again, for us mere mortals, there's a lot of utility here. You've got Ursula yelling all over the tabletop, likewise Lord Solar, with, of course, their own abilities, such as +1 CP your command phase or -1 CP on stratagem cost. Now, the last one, as I said, go check out Joshy40k for a fantastic video on this, is that this certainly is a very good one. So if you just take a command squad and an Ogrim bodyguard, in the current rules, the Ogrim bodyguard's toughness 6 is what your opponent has to roll their wounds against, which means you now suddenly have got, you know, 5 or 6 veterans or command squad dudes and girls who have got a toughness 6. Obviously, you have to roll the toughness, the wound roll against that, but then obviously the saving throw you've got to do individually against the individual miniatures. And this, of course, is where you take a 4+ invul save on the Ogren, and then obviously the rest of the guys got the normal save. But do check out Joshy's video on that one, because he goes into a lot of detail how to actually properly phase the wound roll and phase, obviously, also the saving throw, and also who you revive and die when they take casualties. So these are the 4 options. As I said, I personally go with this one. But now I'm starting to think, because I had a great run for about 3 months. I've had a terrible run recently. I've just stood off a cliff performance-wise, talking about little toy soldiers. But I think this one definitely has merit, because suddenly you've got a deceptively survivable unit, which is toughness 6. So that means, crucially, a lot of low-level Dacolyte bolters have gone from wounding you on 3s to 5s, which is fantastic. And even against some somewhat stabby melee stuff, they're going to go from wounding you on, say, 2s, because they're strength 6, to wounding you on 4s, and they're going to go from giving you no save to having a 4+ invul save. So this certainly, I think, has got some really good play. I haven't used it yet, but I definitely will be trying it, because I'm kind of thinking I need a bit more resilience in my list. Now, this combination, as I said before, and also this one here, is that not only if you run them solo or with the Ogrim bodyguard, they can't receive orders. Yes, they can give an order, but given they don't have regiment, they can't receive an order. If you attach them to a battle line, they will get regiment and then can receive orders. But if you do this, attach them to a battle line, you can't. Well, you can do this, but the problem is if you do this plus battle line plus them as well, because in the current rules, because the majority of the models have got a toughness 3 save, the Ogrim bodyguard, this doesn't work. It's all a bit janky. Well, not janky, but it's just how the rules work. So, as I said, run them solo. They only issue 1 order. They're not regiment. Run them solo with an Ogrim bodyguard for an Ogrim bodyguard tank. Attach them to a battle line unit. I'm not sure, or go the full hog and attach them to Ursula or Lord Solar, or a Cadian Castellan who gets sustained hits. So that's the options. As I said, I pretty much stick to this one here, and I'm going to start using this one a bit more often, because I think there's some good play with that. So, what do you think? Hopefully this is helpful. I sort of break it down, but as I said, I would say across the Krieg, the Catachan, the Cadian, they're roughly all the same thing. They're toughness 3, 5+ save. They've got med packs. One of them got 6 up pain, 6 up for no pain UP. They can be OC2. They can have a fair bit of DACA, also a bit of punching from the power fists. The Militarum Tempestus is a completely different kettle of fish, and there I would say, except if you're playing Bridgehead Strike, you probably always just go for all the DACAs. So give them 4 of the special weapons, attach them to some other blokes, and you've only got a very spiky unit. But again, in the competitive scene, they're probably too expensive. But against the other 3, it's kind of just take whatever's your flavour. But then we're running solo of an Ogrim bodyguard. I personally would go Cadians, because then you've got 2 power fists. You've got an Ogrim with his baton or whatever you want to take. And also you've got the benefits of cover if you're up against an objective. So what do you think? Hopefully it's helpful. If I've made any mistakes, let me know. If you've got any questions or comments on this video or about the rules, let me know. And likewise, tell me how you use them. What's your favorite way to play them? Are you using them at all? Do you just do them solo? Or do you go like I do, which is attach them to the mega blob and have loads of orders plus loads of investment and points? So if you enjoyed this video and want to support me, you can do so with a like, comment, or by subscribing, watching other YouTube videos, or becoming a Patreon Platoon member or a channel member. I really enjoy the support I get from my current supporters, be it the patrons, who get little miniatures assigned to them at the end of each video, or also my channel members. And finally, if you want to support me further, I can get some dice sent to you. I had these made by Dice Brand in the US, but I have to see in the camera there, but they've got a little bit of a light camouflage, and if you check in the description below for details, I'll basically send them to you via a PayPal link, postage around the world. So super thanks to my current supporters. So keep your bayonet sharp, Alaska and oiled. Fair for the Emperor strong. Patreon Platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn, Tank Commander Mitchell, Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten, Lieutenant Burke Nielsen, Lieutenant Smith, Colour Sergeant DuPont, Sergeants Adal, Scott, the Colonel Merrill, Veterans Gibson, Hall, Lundeen, Guardsman Beard, Coquelin, Easingwood, Hills, Lyons, Malik, Nitton, Medicae Rolfe, Tontkin, Conscripts England, Evangun, Goodwin, Honorary Members Balgrim King, Psyker Smith, Scion Gaylard, Aquilon Nassine.